Melbourne's rental market is about to explode. We're going to see rental price increases like we've never seen before. Now, Tiffany, you and I have something in common, and that's the fact that we both rent where we live, but we also own investment properties all around Australia. So when rents increase, we're going to be hit from both sides. You know, our rent is going to go up. We're going to have to pay more for where we live, but also we will have our rental yields improve.
Yes, and today we're going to show you the two data sets that came out last week at the time of recording that completely contradict each other on Melbourne, and why the contradiction is the whole story.
So let's set the national picture first, Tiffany. What happened last quarter with rental prices?
Look, what we've seen is Sydney house rents jumped 6.3% over the June quarter, the strongest quarterly growth in 4 years, while house rents hit records high across Australia. That's $50 a week in 90 days.
$50 in 90 days. That's insane. And you would have thought Sydney couldn't get any more expensive.
Yes, that's right. And Domain's Chief of Research and Economics, Dr. Nicola Powell, described it as an extraordinary, and note that quarterly growth in Sydney is roughly 5 times faster than a year ago.
Well, this is the part that matters. The budget's property tax changes haven't formally bitten yet. Like, you're not seeing people who own investment properties increase rent simply because of these changes. However, experts are saying that landlords are doing this, you know, sort of in advance of the changes happening, even though their properties are grandfathered in.
Yes, look, and Powell's read is that the landlords are moving quickly in advance to lift rents where market condition allows, and that this will only get worse.
So we've touched on Sydney. What about on a national level?
The combined capitals, house rents grew by 2.9% on the quarter, taking the annual increase to 7.7%.
Yeah, okay. Now, here's where we have to be careful, because we're about to tell you that Melbourne is exploding, yet one of those two data sets says quite the opposite. So Domain has Melbourne house rents up only 0.8% for the June quarter. That's near the bottom of the country, like Sydney 6.3, Darwin 5.6, Melbourne 0.8. So why does that seem so affordable?
Look, and also in realestate.com.au, same quarter, same city, has Melbourne up 3.5%, which is the equal largest percentage increase of any capital city alongside Perth. Median weekly rent is also hitting $600 as well, which is an extra just over $1,000 a year for the typical tenant.
So should we be listening to realestate.com or Domain?
Well, look, I would look at both. The reason both are true is a single most important fact in this episode, which is Domain's 0.8% figure is house rents only. The REA figure is all dwellings combined. And here's the tell. So REA's economist Luke Redman points out Melbourne's median unit rent is $600 a week against $590 for houses. So units are renting for more than houses. Redman's read on that is that renters are choosing an inner city location over a larger property.
So the rental prices isn't exploding all around Melbourne. It really is those inner ring lifestyle locations.
Which, if you listen to our last episode, is precisely the asset class we had said had the best yields in the city.
Yep, absolutely. Now let's get into how policy changes are going to affect the rental market, because as I mentioned earlier, like, they haven't affected it yet. These changes haven't materialized yet. So let's get the policy straight, because there is a lot of noise. So as of the 1st of July 2027, negative gearing for residential property is now limited to new builds. And if you acquire an established property after budget night, you're not going to get negative gearing. If you already owned established property before the budget announcement, that's grandfathered in, you still get the negative gearing, but no new established property after budget night. This one is the self-managed super fund borrowing ban for residential property. And this one, really, I haven't heard many people talking about how it connects to rents yet. So Tiffany, can you explain the ban for our listeners?
Look, from 10th of August 2026, SMSFs can no longer enter new limited recourse borrowing arrangements to buy residential property.
Yeah, so you can't get a home loan to buy a residential property within your self-managed super fund. You can still buy a house, but it has to be in cash, which no one does, and it sort of defeats the purpose of property investment. But a good thing is you can continue to borrow to buy commercial property. So if you guys listening have, I would say commercial property is more expensive. You probably want 350K plus in super to be thinking about that. But yeah, unfortunately, no more home loans if you want to buy a house in super anymore.
Yes, correct. And like you said, only property meeting the definition of business real property can be financed through a loan inside an SMSF. So similar to like commercial as an example. You can still buy resi, like you said, in your SMSF, but with cash. You just can't borrow to do that.
Yeah.
So unless you've got cash sitting in your fund to buy outright, that exemption is theoretical.
So Tiffany, can you explain the capital gains tax changes for our listeners?
Yep. So look, from July the 1st, 2027, the 50% capital gains tax discount is replaced with cost-based indexation and a 30% minimum tax on net capital gains. And that applies across all capital gains tax assets, not just housing.
Yep.
So includes shares as well, for example. And the industry read on what that does to rents is not subtle. So Property Investors Council of Australia Chair Ben Kingsley called it the perfect storm for renters. Less supply, high demand, high costs, and said tenants will pay significantly higher rents in Victoria for the foreseeable future.
Sad for us.
Sad for us, honestly. And sad for all the tenants out there as well.
Yeah.
Like the cost of living is already quite high.
Yeah. How much rent do you pay for your unit in South Melbourne?
Look, I share this with my husband 50-50 and we pay about $710 a week, but I am expecting that's going to increase by about, let's say, $50 a week more.
Of course. So we've discussed all these different policy changes. Let's now outline how this is going to materially affect the rental market. So with all of the things we've discussed, you're seeing the amount of investors in the market drop off. Tiffany, how many less investors would you say are in the market right now?
Look, on the ground, we are seeing firsthand that there is significantly less buyers transacting. We're also seeing auction clearance rates significantly reduce as well across all markets. And that is a signal of the market softening at the moment.
Absolutely. And the reason why we haven't seen the effects on the rental market just yet is because there are lags in property. You know, the clients that we're still servicing now, they have pre-approvals that were honoured 3 months ago, call it. Whereas any new investor entering around the time that just after the budget announcement came out, they've seen their borrowing capacities drop by up to 30%. Meaning more investors dropping out of the market, you have less transactions, and then when you do sign a contract of sale, you then have 45 days until you actually settle, or it could be longer. So all of this time delay, and then it's on the rental market, or you've got a lack on the rental market. So that is why we haven't materially seen these effects on the rental market just yet. But it is coming. Like you are going to see less rentals available. You're going to see more tenants competing against one another. And that is why we're saying you're going to see rents in Melbourne increase. Well, now there is a positive side to the story, and that is the fact that with less investors in the market, first home buyers are getting better opportunities to actually enter and buy their first home.
Yes, and look, that is true as well. However, what we're seeing is when an investor sells to an owner-occupier, the dwelling doesn't actually change hands. It actually leaves a rental pool entirely. So one property gone from rental supply and the tenant who lived in it now competes for what's left. So on top of that, we are also still getting migration into Victoria with over 122,000 residents coming into Victoria just last year alone. So what we're seeing is there's going to be an increased demand for housing, but there's a shortage of supply because that property that just got sold to an owner-occupier leaves the rental pool.
Yes, so the point really is if the rental pool wasn't increasing and you didn't have new renters entering the market, that would be all sunshine and rainbows. But at the end of the day, we have an ever-growing pool of aspiring renters, whether it be young adults moving out of home or new migrants. So unfortunately, we're going to have continued pressure on rents, and that is why we're going to see rents go up. And I say unfortunately because, of course, we are renting. We don't really want our rents to go up. But if you already own property, well, then that's fantastic for you because you're going to see your rental yield increase. You know, in Melbourne over the past 12 months when we've been buying for our clients, we let them know, look, the average yield is around 3.5%. It's a negatively geared property. Now we're starting to see that number really push 4%, which is very attractive for investors. And you're actually seeing the opposite in states around Australia. Like the yields in Brisbane have been falling. So that is why we're now seeing more Brisbane-based investors look towards Melbourne.
Yes, correct. And the point of this is there's actually not a lot of supply being built as well. So the ABS data has dwellings commencements at just over 13,000 in December 2025 quarter, which is down from their peak of 22,000 in early 2021. So Victoria posts strong approval numbers, but the pipeline is choked by building costs, labour shortages and financing pressure due to the high interest rates as well.
So we have an ever-growing demand pool, but supply is shrinking.
Correct.
Just getting even worse. And now, Tiff, not only are we seeing less supply of rentals because of the development pipeline that you've just mentioned, we're also seeing less supply of rentals because of all of the regulations and restrictions around rentals in Victoria, which is so unattractive to investors. Like we have higher land tax. Also, we have all of the restrictions around compliancy before you rent it out. Like how much are our clients paying for compliancy checks?
$300 to $400 for a report just to make sure that your house or the place that you're buying in is compliant with the minimum rental standards in Victoria.
Yep. So you have to pay for those checks if they don't already have them done. And you have to do them every 2 years. And I would say on average, our clients who buy in Melbourne, they're probably spending around $1,000 to make sure the property is compliant for its tenant. And that includes things like making sure it has sufficient curtains to block out light in the bedrooms and in living rooms, making sure that you have anchors on every window to make sure that it's safe for the renter. So plenty of checks, and these are all very good things to do. I mean, you want to make sure that the house is safe and comfortable for your renter, but it's just all the costs add up. And that is why I spoke to a client yesterday and he said he's looking to buy an SMSF before the 10th of August. And he said, look, Ella, I'm done with Melbourne. And I spoke to another girl yesterday. She said the same thing. She said, I don't like your government. She's from Sydney. So the conditions around renting out property in Melbourne, it's becoming less and less attractive to landlords or investors. So we're simply seeing less supply. It's what it comes down to. So despite all of this negativity around policies and restrictions and regulations, with less supply but growing demand, it's very clear that we're going to see rental prices increase, and in turn, that improves the rental yields for property in Melbourne. And as yields improve, we're going to see investors from all around Australia start to look back at Melbourne and say, okay, well, it's affordable. I can buy an affordable unit or house here, and I'm actually achieving a 4.5%, maybe even a 5% rental yield.
Yes, correct. And I also think once you actually make the calculations on what your annual outgoings are, the end result is actually not too bad when you compare it to other capital cities like Brisbane as an example, where the yields are not as attractive.
Yep, and they have like higher insurances, higher council rates, depending on where you're positioned around Queensland as well.
Correct, exactly.
So to wrap all of this up, Tiffany, rents in Melbourne are sitting at around $600 per week. Units are actually providing better rental yields for the landlords. The policy changes that don't come into effect until July 2027 are already being priced in by landlords who are, for the most part, grandfathered in. Now, the SMSF door shuts on the 10th of August, meaning, again, less supply of rentals. We are going to be tracking this rental market in Melbourne every quarter because, we're directly affected by it, and it's very interesting. Now, if you guys are listening or watching and you want to have a chat with us about how this affects you as a landlord or how this may affect you as an aspiring property investor, please reach out. There is a link in our bio. Have a chat with myself or Tiffany at Mecca Property Group, and then we'll keep the ball rolling from there. Thanks for listening.
See you later.